Shabbat Shalom. Before we begin our service, I'm going to ask everyone as they settle to kind of look around and just acclimate and figure out where the nearest emergency exit might be. It's reality for Jews to always be prudent, so we want to just look around and see where we are and where we can go. This is the third week in the Hebrew month of Adar. Adar is the month of Purim. But this year, we have what's called a pregnant year, or Shana Merubelet. It is a year that has 2 months of Adar. It has a leap year. Now, in America, we have a leap year with a day. In Judaism, we have a leap year that has an extra month. And that extra month, that happens 7 times every 19 years, but I'm not going to explain it, helps keep the seasons in their spot so that Purim is always in the spring, Passover is always in the spring, and Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah are always where they belong sometime in the fall. And so we have 2 months of Adar this year. I was born in Adar 2, so I don't get really excited about Adar until Adar 2, just so you know. And for those who say, well, what happens, Rabbi, if you're born in Adar 2 and there's only one Adar? You just celebrate your birthday on the first month of Adar. So there you go. But this year, our Purim, the big reveal just happened last week. We are going to be doing a Taylor Swift Purim. And even if you don't like Taylor Swift, that's okay. You can hate, and still come to Purim and sit in the hater section. So there you go. That's where my kids will be because they are not Taylor Swift fans. But I will have them come and heckle. So there you go. Everybody has a job for Purim. So we come now to Shabbat, a time of spirituality, of joy, of rest, and of peace. And we begin our Shabbat service with the singing of a very special nigun. It is my pleasure to invite to the Bima to sanctify our Shabbat candles, and the sanctification of our candles, the blessing, can be found in our Sidurim on page 2. It is my pleasure to invite forward Pat Gibbs.
אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר של שבת.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom. We continue in our Siddur on page 14.
You can just wait 1 second. I appreciate that. Sorry. You're okay. I just wanted to let you know, before we start, that's all right, things happen. Before we begin, we're going to start on the bottom of page 14 with a familiar text, Or Zarua, and then we're going to move seamlessly into the bottom of page 15 to a new text, maybe for some of you, Hariu Ladonai. And when we're done with that one, we're going to move to the following page, to page 17, also at the bottom. You'll remember it's the bottom section of each text, to Romemu, also a familiar text. These psalms, Psalm 97, 98, and 99, all represent parts of the days of the week. These are psalms that help us usher in Shabbat as part of Kabbalat Shabbat. So we begin on the bottom, light. Light is sown for the righteous with Or Zarua at the bottom of page 14. Tzaddik u'lishrei lev simcha Or Zarua latzaddik u'lishrei lev simcha Or Zarua latzaddik u'lishrei lev simcha u'lishrei lev simcha Or Zarua latzaddik u'lishrei lev simcha u'lishrei lev simcha Page 17. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. And now that we have brought forth from each weekday a psalm of praise to Adonai, we continue now on pages 20 and 21 with Lecha Dodi, where we formally greet the Sabbath bride, which means at verse 9, you're going to rise as if we are and face the entrance of the sanctuary as if we are actually greeting the Sabbath bride together. A new melody from Josh Warshawski, Lecha Dodi. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabla. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabla. Let's do that part again. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabla. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabla. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, hishmi'anu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad u'shmo echad, l'shem u'tiferet v'litchila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabla. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabla. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'tzola. Toch emunei am segula, boi chala. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabla. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabla. Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Malachei Hashalom. And as we've moved now from the Psalms for the week to welcoming the Sabbath bride, we move now to Psalm 93 on page 23, a psalm that proclaims God's work and the establishment of God's sovereignty over all, the fitting end to Kabbalat Shabbat. Now, if you go to the last paragraph, you will see the text of Nasu, the nigun we have now been singing for months. So you'll sing the nigun that hopefully you by now recognize, the one we began this Shabbat, and here are the words. And sing along as you catch along. We start back with the nigun. I die, I die, 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 yada die, da die, I die, die, die. I die, I die, 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 yada die, da die, I die, die, die. I die, I die, 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 yada die, da die, I die, die, die. נעשו נהרות כולם, נעשו נהרות אדוני, יישאו נהרות אך ים. מקולות מים רבים, אדירים משברי ים. מקולות מים רבים, אדיר במרום אדוני. ידדי, 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 עדותיך נאמנו מאוד, לביתך נאווה קודש, אדוני לאורך ימים. ידדי, 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 ידדי,
We are going to continue now with the Baruch Hu, our call to worship. On page 28, please rise.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Please be seated. Let's read together at the bottom of page 31. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai, ma'ariv aravim. On page 34, we come to the Shema. Shema is this prayer where we're supposed to really focus on listening. Shema, this first word, to hear. So as we rise now for the Shema, I will invite you all to try, if you don't already, to close your eyes to see how that changes what you hear and how you hear the Shema. Please rise as we turn to page 34. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'elem asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha veshinantam levanecha v'divartam bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uvshochbecha uvkumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha vehayu letotafot bein einecham uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecham liman tizkeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai vitem kidoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lehiot lachem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohechem. Page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. We continue now with the words of Mi Chamocha on page 40.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Norat hilot osef eleh, norat hilot osef eleh, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed, malchutecha uvanecha bokei hayom lifnei Moshe uMiriam, zeilianu ve'amru, zeilianu ve'ameru, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Norat hilot osef eleh, norat hilot osef eleh, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. We continue together on the top of page 44. Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We come now to our congregational tefillah, which can be found in our Siddur, starting on page 46. Will the congregation please rise? Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh hakol, V'zocher chasdei avot v'imahot, Umevi geula livnei v'nehem, Lima'an shemo bi'ahava, Melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah, Ata gibor leolam Adonai, Mechaye metim ata rav lehoshia, Mashiv haruach umorid hagashem, Mechalkel chaim bechesed, Mechaye metim berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umido mehelach, Melech memit umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atal hachayot metim, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye hametim, Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, Ukdoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated. We continue on the top of page 55. Let's read responsively. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mikadesh HaShabbat. We continue on page 57.
Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ve'amcha Yisrael. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ve'amcha Yisrael. Utefilatam be'ahava tekabel. Utefilatam be'ahava tekabel. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael. Utehi l'ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael hamecha. Utehi l'ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael hamecha. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ve'amcha Yisrael. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai she'otecha levadecha
We continue in our Sidurim on the top of page 59. Let's read together. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. At this time in our worship service, our thoughts turn to those of our families and communities who are ill and in need of healing. So we think this evening of Rabbi Bruce Goldwasser, Rabbi Fred Wenger, Leonard Schultzman, Frederick Bryan, Sonia Maria Reimar Miller, Carol Pretnar, Paul Alterman, Gloria Weedhorn, Rachel Basio, Alexander Yanitz-Yevitz, Holly Erickson, Denise Fleischer, Kate Matchnick, Bill Napolillo, Rachel Rosenthal, Tom Urban, Cheryl Harris, Barbara Johnson, and all who suffer whom we know not by name. Misha Berach, Avotenu,
Avraham, Yitzchak v'Yaakov, v'imotenu, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel v'Leah, hu yivarech v'rapeh et kol cholei Yisrael, v'yishlach lahem bimhei ra, refuah shlema, refuah tanefesh, refuah taguf, v'nomar Amen. May God, who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal all who are stricken. May the Holy One of Praise mercifully restore them to health and to vigor. May God grant them health of body, health of spirit, and of mind. And let us say, Amen.
Nishaberach avotenu mekor habracha liimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We take a moment now for silent reflection. Adonai tzuri v'koali. Hiu l'ratzon im refi v'hegion li
And as we've taken a moment to pray for peace, we think of peace in all the world. And so we offer this blessing for the state of Israel and for all humanity. O God and God of our ancestors, we ask your blessing for the state of Israel and for all of Israel's inhabitants. Mikor Chaim, source of life, bless and strengthen those who defend the land and ensure their safe and speedy return home. Protect and guide them. Kadosh Baruch Hu, holy and blessed one, show Israel's leaders your path so that they may act with wisdom, courage, and dedication, and that they may be unwavering in their pursuit of peace. Strengthen their hearts, but keep them from hardening. Matir Asurim, free the captives. Return all those who are kidnapped safe and sound to their homes, without the spilling of more innocent blood, without any more souls being tarnished by horrific acts. Baal Harachamim, master of compassion, help us to hold the humanity and the heartache of the Jewish people, while also holding the humanity and the dignity of the Palestinian people. As we are made in your image, God, remind us of your ways. Spread over us your shelter of peace and fulfill the vision of your prophets. They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not take up sword against nation. They shall never again know war.
Our Torah portion for this Shabbat is Ki Tisa. And Ki Tisa, it's a very long portion, happens to talk about the building of the golden calf. Now the calf, in Egyptian lore, if you will, was like a god. It was Baal. It was a very powerful deity. So for the Israelites to have built a likeness of a cow, which was an Egyptian god, was not just an affront to God, but it was a big no-no. And so that's what we read about this Shabbat, is about Moses when he comes down the mountain at Mount Sinai, where he's receiving the 10 Commandments, or as Mel Brooks said, 15 Commandments and then 10. But as Moses comes down and he sees the Israelites dancing around the golden calf, he smashes the tablets. And one of the things that I talked about, oh, by the way, Ki Tisa happens to be my bat mitzvah portion. But here's the rub. Are you ready? At 13 years old, I was raised conservative, so I didn't have a bat mitzvah. Instead, I had a resentment because the year after my not bat mitzvah, they changed the rules in conservative Judaism, and women were then allowed to read from Torah. I only got to read from the Haftarah. So when I was 31 years old, I decided that I was going to have my own bat mitzvah. And because I'm dyslexic, 13, 31, what's the difference? 18 years, it's a very Jewish number, and this was my Torah portion. So I got to talk a lot about Moses' anger issues and resentment, that God was resentful that the Jewish people had the chutzpah to build a calf. And God wanted to destroy the Jewish people, the Israelites, and it was Moses who interceded and said, hey, dude, Big Kahuna, these guys were slaves in Egypt and they're really scared. And so you might not want to destroy them, you might want to give them another chance. And what we learn from this Torah portion, from my resentment about not having a bat mitzvah, is resentments are spiritual in nature. Not a positive spiritual thing, but an opportunity for us to grow spiritually through our resentments. Just as God forgave the Israelites, just as Moses went back up the mountain and came down with a second set of 10 Commandments. Now, in the ark, they kept the first shattered parts of the first set of 10 Commandments, but they also kept the intact 10 Commandments. And what that teaches us is that sometimes we have to work through our resentments and come out on the other side. It doesn't mean we forget, but it does mean that we have to forgive, which is why I was still able to become a rabbi. I mean, I didn't get so resentful that I left all of Judaism. Notice I didn't become a conservative rabbi. So resentments moved me in a different direction. I just use that as an excuse. Ask me at the Oneg the real reason I didn't become a conservative rabbi. You'll like it. But earlier tonight, during our story, when we were doing our Kiddush Club, Shabbat, Marla told an amazing story, and it had a cow in it. And I said, oh my God, Marla, you have to tell this story tonight. So she doesn't just have a beautiful voice, ladies and gentlemen. She also tells a mean story.
Well, it might not be a golden calf, but there is a cow. There is a cow. And this is an interactive story, so please feel free to join me as I make fun of myself through this lovely story. So there was once a lovely family, a big family with parents and grandparents and children and grandchildren, and they all lived in this farmhouse together. Maybe the farmhouse wasn't the largest farmhouse, but there was beds for everyone, and because it was olden times, maybe a whole bunch of kids, sort of jammed in there, and it was a house full of noise and love and commotion and people, when you're all crammed in there together, people reading, people studying, people singing, people, yelling at one another. It was a very noisy and boisterous household. And at one point, the mother, she's like, I can barely hear myself. I just want to read this book in peace. But the children, they're sort of running all over the place, and everyone is laughing over there, and you're over there singing and practicing, and that musical instrument, and it became so much. And she turned to her spouse and said, we have to find a solution. Do you know a solution? I don't know a solution, he replied, but I do know a wise person. So they went up the hill to the rabbi, and they said, Rabbi, we have this big family, and people are running all up and down, and it's loud day and night. We can barely hear ourselves think. There's pots and pans throwing all over the house. The kids are singing and playing their musical instruments. They're reading out loud and attacking one another and fighting, and it's just too much. It's just too much. Do you have any advice? Well, the wise rabbi thought a moment, and then she said, well, you live on a big farm, don't you? And they said, yes, just down the road. And she said, well, do you happen to have any chickens, perhaps, on the farm? And they looked at each other and they said, yeah, we have some chickens. And she said, tonight, I want you to go home and bring your chickens into the house. And they looked at one another and they said, are chickens? And the rabbi said, yes, bring your chickens into the house. Let them live there with you. This will make your house more peaceful. So they look at one another and think, well, the rabbi, she's very wise, so we'll do that. So they go home and they sort of wrangle, their chickens. And in the meantime, the chickens what are they doing? They're making chicken-type noises like, cluck, 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 and bark, 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 and the chickens are bark, 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 cluck, 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 and they're moving into the house, and they're sort of shoving them into the house, and then they shut the door. So now there are children laughing and crying, and pots and pans banging all around, and musical instruments and people singing, and grandparents reading stories out loud, and all you hear above all that noise is bark, 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 and then the chickens are chasing the children, and the children are chasing the chicken, and feathers are flying everywhere. But the rabbi's wise, so they all attempt to do what they are doing, and they try to go to sleep at night, but there are chickens everywhere, and they're flying, and at 5 a.m., not a lot of sleep gotten that night. So the very next day, they look at each other and think, we must have misunderstood the rabbi, and they go back. And they say, Rabbi, it's the same problem, but now there's a lot of clucking and some feathers moving around, and even, my mother-in-law's threatened to, put the chicken in the pot, and it's not even Shabbat yet, so I'm not sure what to do. And she said, it's okay. I know how to make your house peaceful. Do you happen to have any ducks? Maybe in the pond nearby you. Yes, I think we have a duck. Wonderful. You're going to take the duck and bring it into your house. Well, you can imagine they went back down, they found the pond, they carefully grabbed the duck after much wrangling and brought it back into the house. So now they opened the door, they carefully ran in the house, shut the door, and all they're hearing is yelling and screaming and pots and pans clanging and singing and musical instruments and bog, 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 and now, quack, 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 quack. Well, you can imagine now the ducks are chasing the chickens and the chickens are chasing the kids, and no sleep is to be had by anyone. So the next day, they go back to the rabbi and they say, Rabbi, I'm not quite sure this plan is working. What advice do you have? You said this would make our house peaceful. She said, hear me out, hear me out. Do you happen to have a cow? Well, yes, there's Bessie down in the barn. We could possibly. She's like, well, bring the cow into your home. Okay, Rabbi, we really trust you. All right, we're going to do that. So they go down to the barn, and they put like a leash around Bessie, and they're trying to get her to come. And in the meantime, all she's doing is moo, moo. So they're hauling her around and around. Then they look at their door and go, all right, so now they're shoving her through the front door, hoping, and they make it to the other side and they slam the door. And of course, the kids are running amok and they're singing and laughter and pots and pans banging, and the chickens are running around and going bark, 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 and then the duck is quack, 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 and then they see the cow moo. And they look around, and the kids are starting to ride on the cow, and the chickens are everywhere on top of the cabinets, and they're singing, and there's pots clanging, and now the mother-in-law is running after the duck with a knife. That's dinner tonight. And the parents, they look around, and they have no idea what to do. Oh my gosh, it's just so much. It's so much noise and craziness, and what do we do? So the next day, they go back to the rabbi and they say, Rabbi, we've done everything you've asked. We brought in the chickens. And the chickens, that was a lot, but we did that, and now there are eggs all over the house, but that's okay. And then we brought in the duck, and the duck is sort of waddling. Somehow it survived my mother-in-law. And then we brought in the cow, and the cow is taking up the entire living room. Really, there's really no room to move, but the children have been sort of riding the cow and patting it. And how exactly does this bring us peace? Peace and quiet. We came to you for peace and quiet. Well, I have the answer. The wise rabbi told them, go home and thank the animals, and then carefully lead them back to their homes, the barn and the pond and the yard. And when you come back to your house, invite your children and the grandchildren, the grandparents, invite them all to clean together and prepare for Shabbat. And this Shabbat, as you sit down, as you've cleaned up together, you might notice the peace of the household and the joyous sounds of people singing and even arguing and reading aloud and practicing their instruments. So that's what they did. The parents, they went back, and together they brought the animals back to their places, and they sat down and they cleaned together and they talked to one another. They could hear each other over all of the noise now, and they were able to talk to one another and clean and be cooperative. And they did. They had a Shabbat of peace, a Shabbat of rest.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Okay. I'm Lisa Popowski with some announcements on behalf of the board. Thank you to our usher, David, our greeter, Rachel, our security team, and everyone who helped serve soup tonight. Thank you, Marla and Marissa, for the music. Registration for our congregational retreat in April is open. Go to mycuc.org/retreat to sign up. Next Shabbat, join us for a special service with a sermon by our 2024 Scholar in Residence, Rabbi Amy Scheineman. Register for this and other programs with Rabbi Scheineman on our website. Purim is right around the corner. Join us for a Purim spiel during religious school on March 17th, followed by our annual Purim Carnival. We will have a special Torah study session the following Saturday to study Megillat Esther. For information on upcoming events, check out our weekly happenings email. Please join us after services for a wonderful Oneg. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
And I will just make an extra plug for the retreat. If you don't want to experience the loudness and the craziness of everything that we just heard in Marla's story, if you have kids, you can send them to be in the cabins for the weekend, and you can sleep in the peace and quiet of your own rooms. Just an additional plug. We are going to now begin to conclude our service, and I have been scouting out. We have, I think, 3 7th graders here, so I'm going to invite our 7th graders to come up to help us open the ark. We are going to continue with Aleinu on page 282. Please rise.
Please be seated.
Bayom hahu, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo, u'shemo, u'shemo echad. We think of our loved ones now whom death has taken from us, those who have died at this season and in years past. And on this Shabbat, we remember Michael Etzkowitz, grandfather of Cynthia Sawyer, Leo Greenberg, father of Barbara Stoller, Ben Marion, father of Michael Marion, Ann Rossby, mother of Sarai Rossby, Rose Lewis, mother of Carol Meyer, Jordan Schwartz, father of Jessica Schwartz, Richard M. Barrett, father of Timothy Barrett, George Schneider, great-uncle of Rachel Wood, Solomon Rothenberg, uncle of Deborah Bacall, Frank Nader, grandfather of Evan Katz, Anita Paradise, mother of Randy Paradise, Morton Paradise, father of Randy Paradise, Marge Gilbert, mother of Mark Gilbert, Charles Mintz, father of Dan Mintz, Millie Livingston, aunt of Marianne Mintz, Marilyn Teller, mother of Nancy Fain, grandmother of Jacqueline Fain Klein, Lillian Friedman, mother of Cindy Viano, Michael Dashnaw, father of Kathleen Herbach, Marcia Harris, sister of Alan Harris, Bernie Schechter, uncle of Leo Notaris, Barbara Hall, mother of William Hall, Connie Mechanic, wife of Martin Mechanic, Alice Kapp, mother of Stephen Kapp, Ruth Meyerowitz, aunt of Carol Nymark, Max Michnick, great-grandfather of Susan Landau Van Dyke, Phyllis Landau Lanick, aunt of Susan Landau Van Dyke, sister-in-law of Eileen Landau, Brenda Forster, wife of David Statt, mother of Joshua and Nathan Statt, Carol Aaron, Harry Rosenberg, and we mourn the recent passing of Rachel Hayes, daughter of Dina Walter, Erwin Borschu, father of Linda Borschu, grandfather of Dagan Borschu, Myrna Joy Rosenthal, mother of Diane Rosenthal, grandmother of Jennifer and Lee Wen Hurt. At this time, if you are thinking of anyone or observing Shiva or Shloshim or Yartzeit of anyone, I'll invite you to share their names aloud or in your hearts as my eyes go around the room. Zichronam livracha, may all of their memories be for a blessing. We continue now with the Mourner's Kaddish on page 294. Please rise. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kari v'imru, amen. Yehi shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, V'yit hadar, v'yit aleh, v'yit halal, shmei d'kudasha b'richum, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, Hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen.
V'imru, 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 amen. V'imru, v'imru, v'imru,
Please be seated. We are going to close with the same nigun with which we opened the Nasu nigun. Conclude with Kiddush and Motzi, the words of which can be found on page 5. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu. V'shabbat kodsho, be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit, ki hu yom techila, lemikra'e kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'charta, Ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, ve'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen. L'chaim, and we join together in Motzi. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon. May each of us know the peace and quiet that family knew without all the animals in their home. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.